This video is a quick review of analyzing functions when you're given the graph. So I gave you the graph of a function that I'm going to call f, and so we're going to find several things related to that function. First thing we're going to find is f of -2. Keep in mind for this, -2 is our x value. We are trying to find our y value. So when x is -2, you'll notice that occurs right here. Y is going to be equal to 2. Next question, it asks you to find all values of x for which f of x equals -2. So in this case, we want to find x for when y is -2. And if you look at your graph, there's actually a few places. The first one is right here. The next one's right here. And the last one is here. So I am just going to estimate it by rounding it to the nearest whole number. It might be slightly off. If it really bothers you, you can say like the first one, for example, I'm just going to estimate it as x equals -3. If you want to say minus 2.9, that's fine. But we're going to be finding those x values where our graph has a y value of -2. And then the third one, it might be like 2.9 or so, but I'm just going to go ahead and estimate it to be 3. Okay, next thing we're going to do, we're finding the intervals on which f is increasing. So f is increasing means that it goes up from left to right. By the way, if it's going down from left to right, it's decreasing. So the places where it is going up from left to right are going to be this part right here and this part right here. The other two parts that I did not highlight are where it's actually decreasing. So that first one is we're going to write it in interval notation. We start our interval notation at whatever the leftmost value is. It might be hard to see, but actually our leftmost value, it goes on forever and ever and ever. We know that because we have that arrow. Our leftmost value is -infinity. So that first interval, the rightmost value of that interval is going to be at -2. One important thing with intervals of increasing and decreasing, we generally do not include those minimum and maximum points, but so we're going to keep it as a open interval. Now that being said, I actually have seen those included, and I think your book answers might actually even include those. So I would just say don't worry if you're including that the endpoint or not. You probably will see it both ways. I personally prefer to not include it, but I won't mark you wrong on a test or a quiz. And that's one of those things that on the AP test, they'll make the problem so you can't make that mistake. So don't be too concerned about that. Okay, so that's my first interval of increasing. Second interval of increasing, I'm going to write this as a union, meaning it's increasing on the first interval or on the second interval, which starts at 0 and ends at +2. So those are my intervals of increasing. The last thing I need to find is the domain and range. Domain we'll start with is going to be your leftmost point to your rightmost point. So again, as in the previous problem, the leftmost point is going to be -infinity. And the rightmost point is 3. This one we do include the endpoint 3 because we know for sure that it's included because it has a closed circle. So that's my domain. My range is going to be from my lowest value to my highest value. The lowest value of the range is -infinity. By the way, just to just a note, whenever you are writing interval notation, if you have an infinity, it's automatically going to be an open interval, meaning it's a parenthesis and not a bracket. So the next part of my range is the uppermost point, which is going to be at y equals 2. That one, because we actually hit the point 2, we used a closed interval, a closed bracket, or a square bracket.